it's like the perfect place to have such an event as this. We are proud of a lot of things at this school. Not the least, we are the only national ranked liberal arts college in the state of Florida. We are one of the youngest colleges ever to receive a Phi Beta Kappa chapter just several years ago. But another thing we're proud of is that Ocean is really part of the way we identify ourselves, not only because we're surrounded by Bagaso and the Bay here, and we have our own beach for anyone's pleasure except yours today. We were scheduled to have lunch on the beach, but we thought maybe a different location.
No, brother.
You did. But 25% of our fresher class on coming to Eckered declares initially their first major as marine science. We have an acclaimed program, partly because we have such outstanding professors like Adidification over here. Now, all of those students do not graduate in marine science. Many of them come because they want to pet flipper, and when they get to Calc 2, there's a problem. But we do have an outstanding program here, a wonderful facility, which I'm sorry, because of the weather, we probably will not be able to take you to that facility, the Galbraith Marine Science Center. But you can see it if you look out the window. We have more students just in sheer numbers, not even percentage-wise, who receive the Hollings Scholarship each year from Noel than any other school in the country. In fact, the three behind us combined do not equal the number usually that Eckerd, of Eckerd students receiving. Our students, at least once a semester, the Woods Hole semester experience. Eckerd is, we are committed to the concepts of the ocean as more than just the thing we enjoy, but the thing that we revere and honor because our life comes from it, and that's part of what we'll be talking about today.
Thank you very much, Mona. Ladies and gentlemen, if my remarks are a little bit soggy this morning, it's because the rains may have something to do with it. On a sunny day, my speeches are rather breezy and light-hearted. But as an environmentalist, I have to be grateful for the gift of rain and understand that the community could use the moisture. So despite the fact that it's a cloudy day, I'm exceptionally glad to be here very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I also wanted to join Mona in welcoming you to what I hope will be a series, the first in a series, of conversations about things that matter with people who can make a difference. And today we are going to explore the issue of oceans acidification, what I've termed a challenge in search of policy. And it is a complex challenge, one that demands urgently sustained application of the best and the brightest of our scientific community. At least in the first instance, it is essential that we get the science right. Otherwise, there's a lot of loose talk and a lot of nonsense about what's happening to the seas and oceans. Unless you get the science right, you will not get the policy right. And that is why today I'm exceptionally pleased that some of the most distinguished scientists on the subject are here with us this morning and will provide to you their perspectives on really what is happening, where we are going, and what we might be able to expect. In many instances, our subject this morning reminds me of the ozone question, which we began to address approximately 30 years ago. And I marvel at the fact that I can remember something that happened 30 years ago. But it was in 1977 when the Governing Council of the United Nations Environment Programme gave us the mandate to start researching the question of ozone chemistry and putting an expert panel together to see what we can learn and how we might be able to frame a policy in responding to the ozone crisis. In the beginning, it was contentious because the chemical industry was extremely unhappy with the fact that we're indicting certain chemistries, the chlorofluorocarbons. And as a result of that, we had very many battles with companies like DuPont and Allied Signals. But Mona, we brought them to the table as partners. This was the first of the United Nations. We brought the chemical industry to join us in exploring the question together. And after about a decade, we were able to get a consensus, and you know the result, the Montreal Protocol. And I feel quite often that perhaps we in the UN missed opportunities by not bringing some of the more contentious groups to join us in a dialogue. I was at Kyoto during the final negotiations for the Kyoto Protocol. And during that time, there was a very, very celebrated auto show, especially since one manufacturer told me, we have the technology to build a car where the air coming out of the tailpipe is cleaner than the air going into the engine. I call it the air freshener. But the point is that that kind of technology would be available. And I thought, wouldn't it have been desirable for the people discussing Kyoto to bring the automotive people to the table? Why not have these people who are manufacturing and developing the technology to be here with us in some kind of... We didn't do that, and by the way, we didn't do it in the climate negotiations. My program, the United Nations Environment Program, brought the chemical industry when we were discussing chlorofluorocarbons. So far, the climate community has not brought the coal and the people from the oil and gas to the table. And we've been, as a result, they sit on the sideline on this night. So when you deal with issues like this, the relevant stakeholders should be brought in. But there were twists and turns along the way, and one that I think might provide a precedent for us. Ozone depletion had a personal component. Skin cancer and cataracts. Suddenly people became aware of the fact that this is a very personal issue, that my health would be involved, my health was at stake. As a matter of fact, doctors are warning their patient to keep out of the sun for long periods of time. Young women are asked to practice safe sun so that they would not have any problems of skin cancer later on. So we may have a precedent here. The problem is that ocean acidification remains remote. It's not part of a popular vocabulary. People are not going to be able to tell you, well, it means this and it means that to me. And that is why this roundtable is really quite important. It's a starting point. It's not the end of a process. We're trying to develop a framework for a continuing conversation on this issue, to bring it into the local mainstream, the public mainstream, and the global mainstream. And my hope is that certainly we would be able to do this and keep this going. I also am very impressed by the fact that we're offering a different kind of approach. On the one hand, we have the scientific perspective, and on the other hand, we have the faith and religious perspective. That's missing, by the way, from the UN. Years ago, I created something called the Environmental Sabbath Program at the United Nations, still going. Because I was convinced that at its heart, the environmental crisis is a moral crisis. And until you can bring the people who are the value shapers and the value bearers to the discussion, we're not going to get solid conclusions. So what we're trying to do is to do something that is extremely useful and quite different, that we would involve the faith communities in our work. And I'm very, very excited this morning that they're here. Ladies and gentlemen, we talk about ozone and the ability to personalize the issue. I'm trying to find an angle. And I hope at the end of the discussion, as we talk next step, I will find an angle. One of the things I'd like to do is to relate ocean acidification to maritime food security, or global food security. In Rome a couple of years ago, we had a very major conference
tonight on World Day
on the question of global food security. Last week in Nigeria, I was at a conference on the food crisis and how to ensure African food security. But the route we were taking was biotech. We're looking at biotech salvation and not at the issue of what could we do to protect the maritime food base. I hope at the conclusion this morning, we'll have some cues and some clues on how we might proceed. And I am very grateful that Dave Randall had taken the pain and the trouble to put this conference together. And as a result of that, I'd like to invite him to take the floor now to tell us a little bit about the program. So, but you have the floor, Dave. Thank you very much, Dave.